in his new role. Thabiso Goba reports.
Prior to being promoted to head up the Ekurhuleni municipality's legal department, Kemraj Bihari had been working as the divisional head for bylaw and compliance. As divisional head, Bihari says his annual salary was 2,088,000 rand. However, the approved salary for the head of legal was lower than that at 2,055,000 rand. Bihari says he raised the issue with the city manager that he was taking a pay cut despite getting a promotion and taking on more responsibility.
And then there was a full process through the remuneration committee, which when they've made a decision, they then moved to the mayoral committee, and the mayoral committee approved those increases based on our submissions. Because the mayoral committee is a committee of council, they then do a noting to council. So any councillors that are not happy with that can then say to the mayoral committee, I want more details, I want this.
Bihari says he was not involved in the process for his salary increase. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
Action SA has confirmed its Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate, Xolani Kumalo, was present during the fatal shooting of a Nigerian man in what the party describes as an anti-drug operation. Police say preliminary investigations indicate that a production company was filming in Linden yesterday when members of its security team allegedly opened fire. Kumalo, who's also a well-known television presenter for a drug-busting show, was at the scene at the time of the shooting, and authorities have opened a murder case, but no arrests have yet been made. Alfara Mushwana reports.
While Action SA claims the Nigerian man who was shot in the presence of its Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate, Xolani Kumalo, was a drug dealer, police have not confirmed this. In April last year, murder charges against Kumalo were withdrawn following allegations that a suspected drug dealer was killed during the filming of his drug-busting TV show Sizokuthola. In a separate matter, Kumalo was recently granted 2,000 rand bail on charges of assault and pointing a firearm. The charges stem from an incident last year in which Kumalo and two others allegedly assaulted an adult man during an anti-drug operation. Police spokesperson Tintswalo Sibeko says police are probing the murder of a Nigerian man who was shot in Kumalo's presence yesterday.
Preliminary investigations show that there was a production company filming in the area and that there were shots fired, allegedly by the production team's security.
Meanwhile, Action SA says it will continue to support every measure to confront the violent resistance of criminals who believe they are untouchable. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
The man accused of carrying out the murder of Warwick Stock, popularly known as DJ Waris, has abandoned his bail. Armindo Pakula, a 25-year-old Mozambican national, briefly appeared before the Johannesburg Magistrates Court this morning. Pakula is facing charges of premeditated murder, contravention of the Immigration Acts, and conspiracy to commit murder. Oren Singh reports.
The second suspect arrested in connection with the high-profile murder of DJ Waris abandoned his bail after his legal representative confirmed that he's illegally in the country. Mozambican national Armindo Pakula briefly appeared in the Joburg Magistrates Court this morning following his arrest last month. Pakula's legal aid representative confirmed he would not go ahead with the bail application as previously intended.
In the circumstances, we see that the address is negative and he is illegal in the country. He is abandoning bail.
Pakula will remain in custody until Wednesday, when he will appear alongside his co-accused Victor Majola. Majola, a Soweto taxi boss, is accused of orchestrating Waris's murder. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
And train drivers in Spain have started a nationwide strike following two fatal crashes recently. The protest action, which is expected to last 3 days, is set to paralyze the rail network and leave thousands of commuters and international travelers stranded. SAMEF, which is the train drivers union, is demanding the hiring of more staff and increased investment and maintenance of the deteriorating rail network. Last month, a high-speed train derailed and collided with another traveling in the opposite direction. 2 days later, a collapsed wall caused another train to derail, killing 37 passengers. Gold is trading at $5,035.42 an ounce. The rand is at 15.98 to the dollar, 21.76 to the pound, 18.91 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.37 a barrel.
Driving through Halton heading towards the Joburg CBD, there's slow-moving traffic on the M1 southbound between Ethel Oaklands and Killarney Bends. While in the mother city, look out for that accident scene on the R300 southbound. This is approaching Stock Road, causing heavy delays.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 27 and 30 degrees. Cape Town's cloudy with showers and thunder showers along with a moderate southeasterly breeze with a high of 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Suspended head of legal at Ekurhuleni Municipality, Kemraj Bihari, has denied his 600,000 rand salary increase was due to him shielding senior Metro Police officers from accountability.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. You're with Mandy Wiener on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. On the show today, a focus on Ekurhuleni at the Madlanga Commission as the suspended head of legal takes the stand. The police on the death by suicide of Viandre Pretorius. Paul O'Sullivan to testify at the ad hoc committee tomorrow. DJ Warris's murder accused drops his bail bid, and we'll wrap up the weekend sport. All of that over the next hour.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Report on 702 and Cape Talk with me, Mandy Wiener. Good to be with you today. Hey, what do you make of that story in Eyewitness News about Kumalo? So he was present at a shooting yesterday of a Nigerian man in what is being described as an anti-drug operation. But the line that has really confused me is that so the production company was filming in London. There was a security team there, and apparently members of the security team allegedly opened fire. So what exactly happened? I think we need more detail there. And this isn't the first time we know that Kumalo, who is Action SA's Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate, has been involved in this kind of thing. You know, I think it's borderline vigilantism. Yes, he absolutely is an advocate and he's fighting against drug dealing. But when does it cross the line to vigilantism? So he was recently granted 2,000 Rand bail on charges of assault and pointing a firearm. In April last year, murder charges against him were withdrawn following allegations that a suspected drug dealer was killed during the filming of Sizoktola. So what is your view on this? Do you think that we need people to be pushing back in the absence of the police? Or is this the kind of person you would want as your mayoral candidate in Ekurhuleni? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Send me a WhatsApp voice note, 072 7021 1702. 072-567-1567. And Ekurhuleni is where we are focused today at the Madlanga Commission, and we know there's going to be a focus on Ekurhuleni for some time now. We had that development over the weekend, the death by suicide apparently of Viandre Pretorius, who was the subject allegedly of a hit last week. So lots of wheels turning here, lots of different aspects to look at. Today, the suspended head of legal is on the stand, Advocate Kemraj Bihari, who's the head of the Risk and Legal Services Department at the City of Ekurhuleni. He has been testifying today. He is suspended at the moment, of course. He was suspended in December for failing to take action against Julius Mkwanazi, who is the deputy chief of the EMPD. So let's unpack this a bit further now. Tabiso Goba, EWN reporter, in studio with us. Tabiso, good afternoon to you. Firstly, just remind us, Advocate Bihari, where does he fit into this whole picture?
Good afternoon, Mandy. As you said, he heads up the legal department in the Ekurhuleni municipality. Obviously, he's currently suspended. And there are basically two main allegations against him. That one, we'll start with the first one, that he shielded the suspended Deputy Chief of Metro Police Department, Mr. Julius Mkwanazi, from accountability. Now, in 2023, there was an IPED report, or we'd start with Julius Mkwanazi. Julius Mkwanazi, as the Deputy Chief, he entered the Ekurhuleni municipality into a number of security deals with Cats VIP. Cats VIP, owned by suspected crime boss Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. And these deals that Julius Mkhwanazi entered the city into were later found to be irregular. And IPID, which is the police watchdog, there was a report on that matter, and IPID recommended that disciplinary action be taken against Julius Mkhwanazi. So Julius Mkhwanazi was suspended. However, he was suspended for 3 months. And after the 3 months, he went back to work. And those recommendations from IPID were never acted on. So there was an allegation that as the head of legal, Mr. Bihari it was his mandate to take action against Mr. Mkhwanazi and ensure that those recommendations by IPID are acted upon. So what Mr. Bihari has said at the commission today is that when he came into this role, the Ekurhuleni municipality was losing a lot of labor cases. He actually put up a figure saying 99% of all labor cases was being lost by the municipality because they were taking on workers or workers were being suspended without proper merit. So when he took on this role and there was a request for him that he should extend or basically draw up a legal framework to extend the suspension of Julius Mkhwanazi, because we do know that municipal employees, after 3 months, you either have to be a disciplinary hearing or they should be allowed to work. So there was a request for him saying that, can you extend the disciplinary or the suspension for Julius Mkhwanazi? And he said that based on what he saw, there wasn't any sort of justification to extend that. But also, he said that the issue of a disciplinary hearing was not within his purview. What he does is compliant and legal. So what Julius Mkhwanazi, the issue of Julius Mkhwanazi was an HR matter and it wasn't a legal matter. And now there was a second accusation against him. The second accusation was that he was awarded a 600,000 rand salary increase for his job, for shielding Mkhwanazi. And how we explain that is that prior to him being at this position as the head of legal, he worked as a divisional head for municipal bylaw compliance and enforcement. And he was earning around 2,888,000 rand. And this new job that he was going into, it was 2,055,000 rand. So essentially, he would be taking like a 30,000 rand pay cut, even though it was a promotion and it would be taking on more responsibility. So what he said is that he wrote to the city manager explaining that, I'm getting a promotion, I'm taking on more responsibility. However, my job, I'm getting a pay cut. Can you do something about this? And then he also explains that the increase of salary of senior managers, they go through the remuneration committee and then they go through the mayoral committee and then they have to be voted into by the council. So it does make a bit of sense where he said that, if there was any impropriety, then I would have to influence the remuneration committee, influence the mayoral committee, and influence council, which is made up of close to about 200 councillors, and they had to vote on that salary increase. And he did speak around the fact that he didn't influence his salary increase, and this is what he has to say on that matter.
But Chair, I want to emphasize the fact that there was no loyalty bonus. There was no way the matter was portrayed in all the... But Chair, I want to emphasize the fact that there was no loyalty bonus. There was no way the matter was portrayed in all the... before the commission and in all the media, that we received something which would look at corruption. If it's corruption, that means I or city manager would have had to influence the entire set of politicians, even up to council. Then the entire council will be part of the corruption. And this is why it is absurd of how this was done. But it was done for a particular purpose, Chair. It was done for a particular purpose to harm my fame, to harm my reputation, to harm HOD's reputation. And even when I go back to the political interventions or political interference, it'll show how, because in between June and July of 2025, I was brought under enormous pressure by the current city manager, Mr. Kagiso Lerutla, who was a CFO at the time, to settle. Kagiso Lerutla and Dr. Kupedi were vying for the city manager positions.
That is Advocate Kemi Bahari, the head of the Risk and Legal Services in the Department of the City of Ekurhuleni. Thank you to Tabiso Goba for that.
702. Mandy Wiener.
Weekdays, 12 to 1 p.m.
Lots of reaction on the WhatsApp line to the story that you heard in the Eyewitness News Bulletin about Action SA's Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate Xolani Kumalo being present during the fatal shooting of a Nigerian man yesterday in an anti-drug operation. On the WhatsApp line, TT says, "Hi Mandy, it's a typical thing where drug dealers and heavy-duty criminals are given sympathy. Any force is acceptable for a drug dealer. Think if your child or family are addicted to the sympathetic attitude for people who cause irreversible harm to children and normal people is nonsense. Putin, USA, army are brutal. No Nigerian will make their country a drug playground." So reaction there. Well, let's speak now to Xolani Kumalo spokesperson Sianda Makubo, who joins us. Sianda, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Firstly, just on a point of clarity, what exactly was Xolani Kumalo doing at this incident yesterday?
Good afternoon, Mandy, and good afternoon to your listeners, and thank you for having us on the line this afternoon. So what transpired yesterday afternoon in Linden was that there was an anti-drug operation being conducted by the Gauteng Anti-Drug Unit. So this is an NGO that works with law enforcement agencies, including the SAPS. If you're in Johannesburg, it would be the JMPD. If you're in Ekurhuleni, it would be the EMPD, and the local security companies that are involved in the area, including the community policing forums. So this was a raid which was conducted at that area. And what transpired, Mandy, was that whilst this was happening, and I must say, Councillor Kumalo, who's our mayoral candidate, is a member of the Gauteng Anti-Drug Unit, and he was in the area when this transpired. And the posture that we have since taken ever since there was a case opened against him is that he is not directly involved in these operations, but as a member of the anti-drug unit, he's there, he addresses them, and then he leaves the scene. So what transpired yesterday was that there was a shootout, a raid was conducted, and a shootout transpired, and within that shootout, then someone was injured, and unfortunately they passed away. We can confirm that it was one of the drug lords involved in drug syndicates in the area and is of Nigerian descent.
So I just want to understand this because according to the statement, it says that security was present and security opened fire. If the police were there or the JMPD were there, how come they didn't take responsibility for the scene? How come it was what did you call it? The Gauteng Anti-Drug
Unit.
Drug Unit.
Yeah, we are aware that law enforcement agencies were on scene, and they can respond for themselves in that regard. And we do know that a case has been opened, and I can imagine they can speak on their behalf. But what we do know is that during the raid, there was a shootout between the two parties. The drug syndicates, the alleged drug syndicates, opened fire, refusing access. And an alteration took place, and then there was a shootout. What exactly happened and who shot the first shot, what happened, we're not entirely sure of that, and I know the police are on that.
As far as Councillor Kumalo is concerned here, because let's speak to that, because that's who you're speaking on behalf of. Is he concerned, or is this the image he wants to portray? Because obviously he's involved in anti-drug activism. This is now the second shooting in which he has been present. Is he concerned at the reputational damage here, or is this exactly what he's trying to achieve?
You remember that Mandy, Action SA and Councillor Kumalo first had conversations because of the work that he does for the community. And this has to do with busting drug syndicates and criminal syndicates in the community. So even before he joined active politics, and even before there was a conversation with Action SA, it was because Action SA stands for the rule of law, specifically on illegal immigration and some of these things that affect our communities. So this is his persona, this is his character, this is what he does professionally, apart from the political space. The conversation with Action SA started because he needed to come into politics to effect change through the corridors of power. And that is what Action SA is giving him, that platform and that opportunity to effect power. Because you can appreciate that whilst he can do that professionally, it's only limited. And Action SA is giving him that platform to say come in as a councillor, effect change in council, pass the bylaws, hold the government of the day accountable. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And obviously, once elections are done and he comes through as a mayor, he's able to do that with more authority at that level. So
but Action SA does support the rule of law, right? And that's what you're saying here, is that you support every lawful measure to confront the violent resistance of criminals. Where does it cross the line to vigilantism, though?
Certainly. I mean, Action SA is a party that stands for the rule of law. And that is why we have advised, and the lawyers have advised Councillor Kumalo not to be directly involved with some of these activities. And that is why he would have been there to address the raid and all participants in the raid, and you would have left the scene. So this is what Action SA has advised him, so that when things do get out of control, Action SA is that party that can come in and say that the law must take its course. What transpired after is something that he cannot be held responsible for, but it's certainly something that we are keeping our eye on the ball and making sure that the police do get to the bottom of it. And that is why Action SA would have been there, even when he was at his bail hearing, to hand himself over, to say that let the law take its course so that we get to the bottom of all these issues. And it's very important, Mandy, as well, to understand that some of these syndicates work with our own police enforcement agencies. So whilst we appreciate that the rule of law must take place, it is something that we are also sensitively taking an eye on.
Sianda, thank you very much. Sianda Makubo is the spokesperson for Xolani Kumalo, who is the Ekurhuleni Action SA candidate. On the WhatsApp line, the suspect didn't shoot. I'm here in Windsor East. I stay here. Hundreds of people saw everything. They murdered the suspect. Well, then, do the police investigate? Do we trust the police to investigate if they are complicit as well? I want to be clear that I stand with Action SA in the fight against drug dealers and organised crime, which continue to destroy our communities. I believe that Action SA understands and respects the rule of law and that its efforts to combat crime are rooted in lawful and responsible conduct. At the same time, it's important for the public to distinguish between lawful crime fighting and vigilantism. South Africans are united in rejecting crime, but the use of force must always take place within legal boundaries and established authority. And then... Please correct the report on a shooting in Linden. This is false. The shooting was in Windsor East, not Linden. You are tarnishing our vibrant village's image by spreading misinformation. Apologies for that. It does seem as though it was in Windsor East. I know some reports have said Linden. What are your thoughts on this? I don't think you can have it both ways. I don't think you can say, well, he addressed everybody that was involved in this campaign and then he left. So it gives him plausible deniability because he wasn't actually involved. But if you're the guy who's giving everyone, like if you're the hype guy and you're the one coordinating this and you're the one addressing everyone, you can't then say I've got plausible deniability because I wasn't there. Clearly when you support this. But when do you cross the line to vigilantism? And is this somebody that you want to be your mayor in Ekurhuleni, or do you think this is exactly the kind of person that you want to be your mayor in Ekurhuleni?
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
Good day, Mandy. We say hands off Xolani. We love Xolani. We know there are many police who don't want him because they are on the payroll of these drug dealers. Hand off Xolani. He is our only hope. As we can see on Madlanga Commission, police are being paid by the drug dealers. So hands off Xolani.
Real growth needs more than just banking, and Nedbank Commercial Banking is your growth partner. Their team of industry experts understand your business and its potential, offering insight to help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. Because when you can see what others don't, you can do what others can't. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
For over 30 years, Midday Cargo has been keeping South Africa's supply chain moving, giving our economy the dedicated cargo capacity it needs. Whether it's really, really urgent, oversized, or hazardous, when a shipment has to fly, we make it happen. Linking all major airports with reliable freighter services, our promise delivers. Midday Cargo, Every kilo counts.
The average person will hear their boss say, quick one, 3,476 times during their life. And it's never a quick one. In fact, it's a very long one that forces you to cancel your anniversary dinner at the restaurant with the Michelin star chef and then work through the weekend only to arrive on Monday and be told that the client has decided to go in a different direction. Oh, life taxes you. So invest tax-free from as little as 250 Rand per month.
Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is an authorized FSP.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
No, Mandy, there is no vigilantism when it comes to dealing with such cruel people as drug dealers. No, that is exactly where we lose it. We are very strict in trying to make sure that people are soft on people who don't understand softness. We are very strict on making sure that the specific rules, the very same rules which favor these people, are applied strictly when it comes to these criminals. People who don't understand anything about rules, who don't care, who couldn't care less about rules when it comes to destroying our communities. Maybe it's because you haven't seen firsthand the kind of damage that drugs do in our society.
Mandy, I think with all our policemen captured by the drug dealers, we need a Xolani to do the job. These guys are totally useless.
I think there's a lot of sympathy for Xolani here because there is so much disillusionment with the police. And if the police are involved in the syndicates, then, what do you expect to happen? Good day, Mandy. Why only mention Xolani? Because he didn't even shoot the drug lord. I'm beginning to suspect that different media houses are beneficiaries of drugs. Hence, there's single out Xolani. I can assure you I'm not a beneficiary of the drugs. Hands off Xolani, Mandy, with your anti-South African stance and your favorite illegal drug lords. What vigilantism are you talking about? So I think it's very important that we have the rule of law, and I don't think we can usurp the authority of the police, because then there'll be lawlessness entirely, and we would have complete anarchy on the streets. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a fight against drug dealers and we should have activism, but when it becomes vigilantism, then we do worry about it. Matt says, why are you calling the shootout as vigilantism when you don't have all the information, Mandy? Why would you push for an agenda which seek to paint a drug dealer as an innocent victim? I did not say that. You heard what you wanted to hear there. I'm asking the question about when does it cross the line? And I read out a message earlier from a listener saying, the suspect didn't shoot. I'm here in Windsor East. I stay here. Hundreds of people saw everything. They murdered the suspect. I don't have all the facts. The police hopefully have all the facts, but do you trust the police? And that's the point that I'm asking here is, are we increasingly reliant on people like Xolani Kumalo because we don't trust the police? And then what happens if we resort to vigilantism? Then we will have anarchy on the streets.
702.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Let's walk the talk.
Some clarity at the ad hoc committee now about Paul O'Sullivan and whether or not he is going to testify. Babalo Ndenze, EWN Parliamentary reporter, joining us. Babalo, good afternoon to you. It seems as though a decision has been made.
Yes, indeed, Mandy. Paul O'Sullivan will be appearing physically tomorrow and on Wednesday. Now, this is after he refused to appear physically. I'm requesting to appear virtually and asked for security arrangements to be made for him, and had a list of demands, and he accused, the committee of being part of a conspiracy to end his life, and these were dismissed by the committee. But upon further discussions, he's with the legal team of Parliament as well as security team of Parliament, they've managed to convince him, to basically drop all his demands and appear physically tomorrow, like any other witness, and the committee quite, happy with this, because they didn't want to have him appear virtually, because they said this can't be him. He can't get a special dispensation and has to be treated like every other witness. So the matter resolved eventually, Mandy, but there's just still this Brown Mahoti issue, which was quite similar. But it looks like he might be appearing at a later date, later in February, after they requested another extension until March, Mandy.
Babalo, thank you for that clarity. Babalo Ndenze, EWN Parliamentary reporter. So, Paul O'Sullivan will appear in person, not virtually. There will be full security for him as well. So that will be tomorrow. 12:30, time for Eyewitness News headlines.
Thanks, Mandy. Good afternoon. Forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan will finally appear before the police ad hoc committee tomorrow after refusing to appear due to safety concerns. O'Sullivan had earlier given the Parliament ad hoc committee probing police corruption the runaround and refused to appear physically, saying he fears for his life. Parliament says it does not expect it to exceed last year's R7 million budget for this week's State of the Nation address. President Ramaphosa will deliver government's blueprint for the year ahead at the Cape Town City Hall on Thursday evening, with all the military pomp and ceremony that usually accompanies the occasion. And efforts to leverage on Africa's mineral resources is top of the agenda at the annual Mining Indaba today. The 4-day gathering of mining giants, financiers, government and community leaders kicked off earlier at the Cape Town Convention Centre. The focus at this year's talks is on practical solutions that will build confidence, competitiveness and long-term benefits for the continent's economies. Now those are the headlines. There's EWN and more at 1 or as it happens.
EWN Sport.
Good afternoon. I'm Mawande Mateza. The Proteas will be in action later this afternoon as they begin their T20 World Cup campaign. The 2024 runners-up will take on Canada, a side they've never played before in this format. And while they will be considered the favourites for the encounter, SA captain Aidan Markram says they've done quite a bit of homework on their opponents and won't be taking them lightly.
Start of this comp already, we've seen some close games and it doesn't look like there's going to be any straightforward, easy games, but I have faith in our team that if we put a really good game of cricket together, then we give ourselves a good chance at a good result, and that's sort of something you want to do in a competition like this. You want to start off really well and run with that moving forward. So that's where a lot of the focus has been for us as a group, and hopefully we can put a really good game of cricket together.
That game gets underway at 3:30, while in a live game currently on the go, Oman was sent into bat and are currently on 66 for 5 in their 14th over in their match against Zimbabwe. Earlier, Scotland beat an Italian side featuring former SA hockey player Wayne Matson and ex-Proteas all-rounder JJ Smuts by 73 runs. Liverpool manager Arne Slot was left unimpressed by refereeing decisions in their 2-1 loss to Manchester City last night. The Reds had a penalty appeal denied, while at the other end, City were awarded one, which Erling Haaland converted in added time to seal the result. And Slot says City should have had a red card of their own and bemoaned what he calls double standards from the officials. And in case you missed it, the Seattle Seahawks claimed their second Super Bowl title. They beat the New England Patriots 29-13 earlier this morning. Mawande Mateza, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling through Houghton heading towards the Joburg CBD, expect some delays on the M1 southbound between Athol Oaklands and Killarney Bends. Also, in the Midrand area, traffic is a bit sluggish heading into Sandton on the N1 southbound between Allendale Road and the Butlu interchange. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Woodmead at Old Pretoria Road and Woodmead Drive. While in the mother city, there's that accident scene on the R300 southbound approaching Stock Road, and also faulty traffic lights approaching the intersection of Solaris Pass and the N2. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The stage, the lights, the crowd, everything's perfect until suddenly someone slips on the dance floor. A speaker lands in the buffet. In an instant, your masterpiece is a mess. That's why Auto & General is there with Events Liability Insurance. We handle the unexpected so you don't have to. Plan the party, wow the guests, leave the rest to us. For more information on Events Liability Insurance, visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Today's forecast is calm conditions inside your Mazda CX-5. It'll be warm, so likely your cabin chills before you even ask. Patches of scattered traffic, but with heads-up display and lane keep assist, you'll feel like you're alone on the road. Clouds this evening.
Perfect for that Bose sound system. And later, skin tingles as you take that curve a little too beautifully. The feeling will find you in the Mazda CX-5. Wonder awaits.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car on the way to the hospital, carrying an elderly couple, playfully bantering about who their first grandchild will look like. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's bringing two generations together. Every story is different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
Good day, Mandy. This is Simi. This Xolani is the second time he's been involved in a situation where a person has died. In 2023, he was involved in an episode of Zoktola where they took a plastic bag and sprayed pepper spray inside it. It was with Amapanyas, and then they killed a man. A man was killed. And now we have this thing. Clearly, this guy has no respect for the rule of law. He's a vigilante. He doesn't qualify to be a mayor. If people of Ikuruleni want to vote for him, fine. That's their problem. But this is not the type of person, the type of leader that we want.
Hi, Mandy. I think more than anything, right, so around the Xolani incidents and people getting hurt, it's twofold. I'm totally against vigilantism because, I mean, it just leaves doors open for a lot of wrong things to happen. But on the second side of that, similar to the robots, the vagrants that direct traffic for us, that's also vigilantism. But it just goes to show that the state of decay of our systems and infrastructure as a country. So is Xolani wrong? Yes, he's wrong, but the void was left by lack of law enforcement. I mean, if you look at, that's the whole pretense of Batman. Batman is a vigilante because there's no Gotham is in a mess. That's the reality of it.
We're in Gotham. This voice note is so accurate. It completely resonates with me. The fact that we have vagrants, people who have like zero qualifications, just because they've got a yellow bib on, are able to direct 4 lanes of traffic in like one of the busiest intersections in the city. I find it absurd, and we're all okay with it. We're all absolutely okay with it. We all follow the instructions of some random dude who's got a yellow bib on because he's pointing at us in that direction, and we're desperate for any kind of authority. So I understand your point on Xolani. I do think that it borders on vigilantism, but I think that it resonates with people because in the absence of any kind of authority, we want somebody to take control. And when you don't trust the police, when you see what's coming out of the Midlanga inquiry, then you're willing to go with it. But if we do that, if we don't respect the rule of law, we will have anarchy. So that's why we need to restore the police first and foremost above everything. Is we need to clean up the police. We need to restore the authority, the trust relationship we have with the police. Otherwise, we will find it okay for people to take the law into their own hands because we want law and order. And that's why there is so much debate around this issue of Xolani and whether or not it's vigilantism or not.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
Well, if you've been following the outrage around the comments made by the Gauteng Health MEC Nomanto Nkomoralahoko, then you'll understand why the DA is now calling for her to be fired. She made the comment that some patients in Gauteng prefer sleeping on the floor. DA Gauteng Shadow MEC for Health, Jack Bloom, says these remarks indicate that she's out of touch with the reality of most people who use the province's public hospitals. Jack Bloom joining us now. Jack, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your time. Isn't she reflecting exactly what does happen in hospitals? I heard a number of callers into Bongani Bingwa's show today saying, well, actually people prefer to sleep on the floor, which is outrageous, but is it not the reality of what we're dealing with?
No, the overwhelming reality of our hospitals is that they are overcrowded, and that's the question that the MEC was responding to. And to sort of give isolated examples, really, which are quite dubious actually. But the reality is that if you go to our casualty departments, you'll find that you can wait days sitting on a hard chair or very overcrowded, and indeed on the floor because there's no other option. So the MEC was trying to deflect reflected, quite frankly. And I think that she showed that she is out of touch with what's really happening, and she was trying to defend the indefensible. The fact of the matter is that there is a massive shortage of beds and that people are suffering. She should have acknowledged it and told us what she's doing to fix it.
You have spent a lot of time in the province's hospitals. It's something you've been doing for decades now, is really getting inside the hospitals and looking what's going on. What is your experience of what people are experiencing?
Well, people contact me all the time, frankly, from casualty departments. Now, last week, I was contacted by the parents of a mental health patient who had been, waiting in casualty for a week at the Beki Mlangeni Hospital in Soweto to be admitted to a ward. And I've received a lot of complaints. It's like one example, Far East Rand Hospital, where, in fact, the management admitted to me that they just simply can't cope. There's just not enough beds. So it's a common experience for people to wait for ages before being admitted. But apart from that, we're short of other beds as well. We've actually got ICU beds. That's why we have such a long waiting list for surgery. So this is a department in crisis. And what we saw in the MEC's interview, particularly where she defended the suspended head of department as the best head of department that there'd ever been, just shows you that she's really not the person to fix up this department, which has endured scandal after scandal, and National Treasury wanted to put them under administration because they're so badly managed. So, this is an MEC who should have been fired long ago. We've actually been calling for her to be fired for some time now, including because of the cancer treatment scandal where 250 million rand wasn't spent. But I think the latest outrage should hopefully embolden Premier Lesotho to finally fire her and put somebody decent in place.
Jack Bloom, DA Gauteng Shadow MEC of Health, thank you very much for responding there to the comments made by the MEC. I know a lot of furor around them. Unfortunately, the reality in our hospitals is that there is so much overcrowding, but nothing to say that patients choose to rather be on the floor. I think that there are isolated incidents. Of course, if someone is giving birth, there may be incidents where they choose it out of a pain issue. But I don't think anybody would choose to sit on the floor if they had the option of a vacant hospital bed.
702.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Let's walk the talk.
The mining industry descending on Cape Town today. The mining Indaba underway. Every year it happens this week, and lots to discuss. Nokukanya Mtambo, EWN reporter, is there for the first day. The Indaba being opened by Gwede Mantashe, the minister. Nokukanya, good afternoon to you. Take us through what's happening on day one.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mandy. We have this every single year where we have not just the industry giants, government as well, coming together with smaller scale, the junior scale miners, as well as community leaders as well, just getting around somewhat a very big table. We are at the CTICC, but, just to discuss the state of the mining industry, not just in South Africa, in Africa and the globe at large. And then, of course, conversations about how to get it to a place where it needs to be, addressing a number of the challenges, and then, of course, the opportunities that still exist in the mining sector largely. Just starting off the day, really, Mandy, it's been setting the scene in terms of South Africa and the African story when it comes to mining, the conversations about where the challenges are. And Gwede Mantashe speaking there, as well as the Zambian president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, just outlining what they still think needs to be done. And I think the big takeaway, Mandy, are two things when we speak about Africa particularly. That we still hold about 30% of the mineral resources. There's a lot of extraction that happens when it comes to those mineral resources, gold, cobalt, uranium as well, going out into the world. And the issue with that is that we still have a pit to port system where all of the mineral resources that are extracted go out into the rest of the world and then come back as finished goods, but at a really, really, really high cost for Africa, which really is a bizarre scenario because, the mineral resources to produce those final products came from us. So it's a conversation about how we then industrialize African economies, as well as making sure that there's beneficiation. So everything is centralized and we instead sell the finalized products, and so benefiting from it, not just in terms of the contribution of the mining sector to GDP, but also just broadly speaking when it comes to job creation and creating the skill set. The second thing that came out of here so far in the introductory remarks from Gwede Mandasha, the DMR minister here in South Africa, as well as the Zambian president, Mandy, is a conversation about unity in Africa. So what generally tends to happen, and we've seen that especially last year where we saw the rush back to Africa with the extraction of the mineral resources, particularly when it comes to U.S. President Donald Trump and his trying to get his hands more on the resources here in Africa, is that there's a lack of a unified voice, so to speak, Mandy, when it comes to the African leaders. And so every country in Africa tends to negotiate individually as opposed to having a more unified voice. And so when Trump wants to approach for particular resources, he approaches an individual country. That sort of lack of cohesion when it comes to the mineral conversation from Africa as a whole is where the issue comes, and the conversations around then how, as a continent, we're able to approach this conversation in a unified voice and singing from the same hymn book. And then thirdly, just lastly, Mandy, the conversations around, just as I walked out of the press briefing that the DMR minister and his deputy and the DG of DMR are having at the moment in the press lounge, the conversation about dealing with the issue of electricity costs. We've spoken about the number of smelters that are closing in the country, apologies, as well as some of the mining companies that are under pressure, not just the smelters, but more broadly the mining companies that are under pressure because of the electricity costs. And just as I walked out, Mandy, he was about to respond to that question about what conversation needs to be had with the electricity minister, for example, to try bring those costs down. But just to take you back to the response that he gave about Africa and the unity, have a listen to what Gwede Mandasha had to say to the delegates here about unity in Africa and going forward with the mining industry.
Let's not allow a situation where, when we talk with our colleagues from Europe, we talk to them as EU, but we talk to them as individual 54 countries. We're much weaker. My background is in the trade union movement. I know that when you are a worker alone, you are weaker against the employer. But once you form a union, at least you have a collective power to engage the employer. Same applies to the continent. This continent owes it to itself to unite, work together, talk to the outside world as one. It's a long way to go, but let's try it. Let's give it a go. It is what we need most as a continent.
Thank you very much to Nokukanya Mtambo. She'll be covering the mining in Durban all week for us.
On average, you'll spend 83,200 hours working. That's 3,466 days. 20% of that time will be spent in meetings that should have been emails. 10% spent aligning on the misalignment the previous meeting caused. And the rest of the time, waiting for your laptop to update so you can resend that extremely urgent presentation due yesterday because your boss forgot to download it 2 weeks ago. And now, the link has expired. Oh. Life taxes you, so invest tax-free from as little as 250 Rand per month.
Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is an authorized FSP.
This message is brought to you by Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Hey South Africa, want to keep your lights on and save money? Let's use electricity wisely. It's easier than you think. Switch off lights when you leave a room, unplug chargers and appliances, and use energy-saving bulbs. They last longer and use less power. Every little bit helps for your home, your wallet, and our planet.
Let's make it a habit and use electricity wisely. Eskom.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
Good day, Mandy. I challenge you to come with me to Alex for an hour tour to see what drugs have done in our communities. Alex is a drug den today because of these human rights that we have in our constitution, allowing our young people to be drugs victims. I challenge you. You can take a tour in Alex, food tour, to see the victims, the kids that have been fed drugs, and we're sitting with this situation in Alex. It's a problem. It's Jabu from Alex.
Good afternoon, Mandy. Mandy, there's no vigilantism here. There's nothing like that. Come to Tembisa, come to Soweto, come to Katlehong, and see what are these drugs doing to our brothers and sisters. It's horrible. Families are being destroyed. Livelihoods are being destroyed because of these drugs. And these people, these drug lords, they don't give a damn about anyone. They do as they please. They pay the police. We see the police coming, collecting money each and every single day. So, hands off Xolani.
Thank you very much. I can hear in your voices how angry you are about this, how emotional people are about this, and I get it. I'm not naive. I've done my time on the ground. I absolutely know what's going on with the drug issue in many townships across Gauteng. That's not my argument. My argument is we can't have anarchy. Yes, we need people who are active. I'm totally in support of active citizenship and people giving a damn and rolling up their sleeves and getting involved and fighting back and communities fighting back. I think we need that. But at the same time, we need the rule of law, which is why my argument is we need to restore the police. We need to make sure that people trust the police. At the moment, people don't trust the police. And that's why we're seeing communities taking this into their own hands, because they have to do something. And why would you argue with that? Absolutely. We have to do something. So how can you get upset about that? But we have to have the rule of law. And the only way to do that is if we trust the police.
702. Mandy Wiener.
Weekdays, 12 to 1 p.m.
In the Overstrand area, we've seen emergency teams responding to high call volumes. Horston residents have evacuated their homes due to flooding. Disaster management teams assisting residents out of their homes as well. Take a listen to the municipal manager, Dean O'Neill, who sent through this message.
This is an update on the level 4 thunderstorms currently in the Overstrand area. Heavy rainfall has been recorded overnight and during the early hours of this morning. The unconfirmed rainfall measurements include Stanford and Gansbaai area around 25 to 30 millimeters, Hermanus CBD 60 millimeters, Onrus 80 millimeters, and Fisherhaven and Horston 185 millimeters, while in Kleinmond a total of 90 millimeters was recorded. More rain is expected within the next hour on an already saturated ground. This increases the risk of mudslides and localized flooding. Rainfall is expected to intensify around midday today. Our disaster management and operational teams are on the ground, assisting with water diversion, opening infrastructure and distributing sandbags where required. The low-lying areas are now expected to start taking in water, particularly in known flood hotspots. Currently, the roads update, the R43 between Kleinmond and Gansbaai remain open. The R320, the Himmelan Aarde Road, is closed. In the towns itself, Bertha Street behind the Whale Coast Mall is closed, and many other smaller roads within the townships are also closed. The electricity supply is still stable. Some areas have experienced electrical outages after lightning, but residents are requested to report these outages via the Collab Citizens app to help keep telephone lines open for emergency calls. Residents are urged to report incidents responsibly. Please note that multiple urgent assistance calls for the same incidents have been received from different individuals, which places extra pressure on our emergency services. Thank you.
The Overstrand Municipal Manager, Dean O'Neill.
Sports Wrap
Sports Wrap
on 702 and Cape Talk.
Mandy Wiener joining us in studio. That Man City Liverpool game last night was something, hey? So much to talk about there.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, Mandy. Deserved results for City in the end. I think they probably were the better side in the first half. And in the second, you had Liverpool coming back and they showed a resurgence. But a game is 90 minutes long. And just at the end there was just not enough from Liverpool to hold on to that result. And yeah, in the end, they've now won, one game from their last 7 Premier League matches, only one victory in the Premier League this year. So yeah, it's not looking good for Liverpool at the moment. But yeah, well-deserved a result for City, and they get to keep the pressure on Arsenal in the title race.
South African teams mixed fortunes in the CAF competitions.
Yeah, it's incredible the difference a couple of weeks makes because people were talking about Kaizer Chiefs as bowing out of the CAF Confed Cup a little bit early, but now they've gone 3 wins in a row. They're at the top of their group, and with one more match left to play, you would fancy that they would get into the next round in the knockout phases, while Stellenbosch have been eliminated. But I think the most interesting one will be the story of what happens this weekend between Mamelodi Sundowns and MC Alger, who are coached by former Sundowns coach Rulani Mokwena. Sundowns' draw against St. Eloi Lupopo over the weekend means they're out of the automatic places to go into the next round, which the second spot is occupied by MC Alger. And Sundowns need nothing less than a win if they are to keep their chances of going through alive. And if Sundowns had to fall at the group stage after making the final last season, it would be a complete disaster, because also the Champions League is the one competition that Sundowns covered more than any other. And a faltering title challenge in the league as well would spell, I think, the end for Coach Miguel Cardoso. So I don't think it would be a stretch to say that this would be the match for him to save his job at the moment.
And then, of course, we begin our T20 World Cup campaign. Let's agree to just not talk about it for the entire World Cup.
I think I'm a little bit confident for some reason.
You know that I'm always confident, and people laugh at me because it's the hope that kills you.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's something about this Proteas team, and I was listening to the press conference from Captain Aiden Markram, talking about how things have changed in this mentality and the psyche of South African players, especially after winning the World Test Championship last year. I do see or feel, I don't know, something that is quite different from the South African team at the moment, and hopefully it does translate to performances on the field. But at the moment, South Africa has some really great and informed players, both in the batting front as well as in the bowling department. So yeah, I think there is cause to be very optimistic, and hopefully, today I'm pretty certain they should get the business done.
So, I mean, the one thing we're not talking about, Mwande, is the thing that we're not watching at the moment, that the rest of the world is watching. And I'm missing out on my piece of curling. I love watching curling.
Lester was saying the same thing this morning. It's a bit disappointing that we don't get to see the Winter Olympics. It's a festival, and you only get it every so often.
4 years.
Yeah, none of us are going to watch every single Winter Games or winter sports event between now and the next Olympics. It's never going to happen that way. But when people congregate around a mass event like this, people do watch and people do get excited and interested. I know, none of us really knows anything about the figure skating judging, but we all watch to see what incredible things that the athletes are capable of. Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that is not going to be on South African television screens, and hopefully it's not a sign of the future.
Mandy Wiener wrapping up the weekend sport for us.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a shift worker making his way home and daydreaming about his next career move, his next chapter. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a possible light bulb moment that could change someone's life. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
The Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra presents its Valentine's Gala concert with music to melt your heart. Conducted by Daniel Boyko, the concert features award-winning pianist Charles Duplessis and showcases South Africa's ballroom champions. Saturday, 14th February at 7 p.m. at the Linda Auditorium. Tickets at Quicket.
The Midday Report.
thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all the engagement. So many voice notes, so many messages coming through. People feeling very, very emotional, very impassioned about this issue of Xolani Kumalo and of drug dealers in general. I'm sure it's a conversation that's going to continue, but thank you for all of your engagement here. The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk was brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. It's 1 o'clock.
This is EWN.
O'Sullivan to face a police corruption committee despite safety fears, and Bihari denies salary hike linked to shielding Metro Police officials. Good afternoon, I'm Puleng Make. Forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan will finally